Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Traditions give you a sense of identity. So for people with a faith background, that faith background becomes part of their identity, but it might just be that your tradition is every Easter you go camping in the rain.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hi, this is Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm the author of a bunch of books about making families happy, and I'm here with Kylie, my wife, and podcast co-host, mum to our 6 daughters. We're going to talk about Easter in just a sec, but I wanted to share something with you that just cracked me up. I was having a chat with our second daughter. She's finished high school, having a gap year, decided to do a traineeship this year before she goes off to uni. And she's doing a traineeship in early childcare. You've been there. You used to work with little kids yourself. She's been telling me some stories about what it's like to be in a room of little kids, like 25 little kids. It's been so funny.
It's definitely giving her some great experience.
So last night she said to me, Dad, I got pooed on twice today. It's got to be such a hard and thankless job. And she's got this wonderful appreciation for looking after kids now and what it is to be out in the real world working. I just love watching. And she also said that the other day a kid kept on sitting on the toilet without pulling their pants down and making a mess through every new item of clothing. And it just reminded me of what it used to be like when we had all these little kids running around. I'm thinking of all of the parents who are listening to our podcast right now with under 3s, under 4s, and just how taxing it is. The whole toilet training thing and the constantly picking up clothes that reek of body waste. Like, it's such a hard job.
And thankless.
and thankless as well. And then she said to me, Dad, how do you tell the boys to point down when they go to the toilet?
How do you tell them to point down?
I didn't have an answer for it. I'm supposed to be a parenting expert, but how do you tell the boys to point down? And she was like, have you ever had to point it down? And I'm like, I've got 6 daughters. I don't.
Hey, well, I'm just putting it out there. It can be hard to teach a girl to point down too. We've had a few who've missed the mark.
Yeah. Like it's. Oh, anyway, I just thought it was a really fun conversation to talk with this 18-year-old who's living life outside of school now and getting a real taste for what it is to be out in the world. And she's doing this traineeship. She's doing great and looking forward to. She loves what she's learning, but it's also given her a taste of what else she could do in life, and she's starting to think pretty seriously about what university is going to look like. She thinks that university might be a bit easier than dealing with all of these kids. Great life lesson. I love it. So this weekend, it's the Easter weekend, Good Friday. Then we've got Saturday, Easter Sunday, and Easter Monday. And I thought we'd do a podcast conversation about just the different ways that we can celebrate Easter for people who both do have and don't have a faith, because it is nowadays, it's quite a religious tradition. But even if you're not religious, you still get the 4 days off and
you still eat a lot of chocolate.
Still eat way too much chocolate. I thought, wouldn't it be great if we just talked about why traditions matter and some Easter traditions that could work for people regardless of what your faith background is or isn't?
Well, you've actually done a lot of research on this and why traditions actually matter.
Yeah.
So you want to share some of that with us?
Yeah, and they matter whether you're religious or not. So again, while this is about Easter, this is more of a conversation about traditions generally. And if you are religious, then you'll probably already have Easter traditions. If you're not, the fact that you've got these 4 days off every single year, it's guaranteed. If you're in one of the Western countries that celebrates Easter, you've got 4 days off, so why not create some traditions? And here's what the research tells us. It says that traditions give you a sense of identity. So for people with a faith background, that faith background becomes part of their identity, but it might just be that your tradition is every Easter you go camping in the rain. Because it rains.
It rains every Easter.
At least on the east coast of Australia, you're pretty much guaranteed to get wet. But that's the tradition.
Hence why we do not camp over Easter.
But that's who we are. It becomes your identity. They provide comfort and security. They give you something to look forward to. They help you to navigate change because when everything else is going on, it's the one steady constant that's always there. They help you to teach values. You can pass on your ethnic or religious heritage. You get taught skills around those traditions very often. They help you to solve problems or make meaning in life. They help you to heal from loss or trauma, and traditions generate wonderful memories. That's just some of the stuff that the science tells us.
When I think of the traditions that we have in our family, they're gatherers. You know, our traditions gather us together. They bring our extended family and grandparents, and you know that's the joy that comes out of those traditions for me, is the fact that we're all together.
Yeah, and they don't have to be complicated. So whenever I think of a tradition, I'm like, oh, that means we've got to get everyone together and we've got to do all the work. But I was just thinking, as you said that, one of my favourite traditions, and it's passed from one generation to the next. When I was a kid, we'd go and visit my nan and pop in Auburn in Sydney's western suburbs, and as we would leave their house in Cardigan Street, we'd drive down the road with our heads out the window and we'd all be screaming, bye! And we'd be yelling bye for as long as we could hold our breath, which was all the way to the other end of the street.
Did anyone ever faint?
No, but we must have upset some neighbours.
I bet you did.
But it became just what we were. It was part of our identity. It gave us that comfort and security, and it was just part of who we were and what we did. And now when we leave a visit from any grandparent that we've been visiting, it's the same thing. Our kids are out the window screaming bye. It's a tradition, and it can be literally that simple. So after the break, we want to share with you, now that we know why traditions matter, regardless of whether they are religious or not, we want to talk to you about a handful of traditions that you might try to make Easter more meaningful for your family.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Imagine a home where discipline got results without anyone having to feel bad or in trouble. The Do's and Don'ts of Discipline is a webinar to help parents set limits with love, compassion and humanity. Find it now at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we're talking about Easter traditions and the ways in which we can bring our families together.
One Easter tradition that I don't understand, and you might be able to help me with this, is the whole dyeing eggs. What's the deal with the dyeing of the eggs? And I'm not trying to look for any kind of symbolic or religious meaning. I just mean, doesn't that ruin the egg?
Well, it depends how you define ruin. If you're asking whether or not
are you going to be able to eat the egg?
Well, you can eat it because it's just food dye that you know. And
it's only on the shell, isn't it? I mean, it's a crafty activity.
You're going to end up with a red egg or a blue egg or.
Well, it goes through the shell and into the egg.
Yeah.
Well, and it's still edible.
It's the same dye.
What are you laughing at me for?
Well, it's the same dye that you would dye your icing, your cake icing.
Well,
with.
I'm happy to eat cake icing. So
of course you are.
I can't imagine eating a green eggs and ham. We've just created a new Easter tradition. Let's do it. We should do it this weekend and make that.
I don't know if I could eat green eggs. I really don't.
You do not like them, Sam? I am.
No, I don't think I do.
You need to try them. I reckon we've got to do it. So the decorating of the eggs is probably one of the most well-known Easter traditions.
Yeah, look, and I don't really know, how it started. I'm going to assume that, it was something that was readily available and it's cheap and allows families to kind of decorate something without, kind of spending a lot of money.
So it's just a fun tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a bit of dye on your hands and create a bit of colour on some eggs.
Well, lots of families have done totally different things and, using leaves and, kind of tying the leaves around and then putting them in. They kind of create these wonderful patterns with nature. That's a really cool thing to do. Okay, you don't end up with a green egg.
What other traditions do we have?
Well, you can't go past the hot cross buns. They've been in our stores since about,
December.
February.
No, I reckon December. As soon as Christmas was gone, there were hot cross buns.
And by the time Easter comes along, we've all had enough of them, but they're there. And I do appreciate that they've kind of expanded the palette a little bit.
Yeah, so there's chocolate in some of them now,
yes.
Which is the way it should be. And you're also, we bought a Thermomix years ago. You said this is going to revolutionise our kitchen. It's going to change everything. We used the Thermomix for two things: making milkshakes. Oh my goodness! And then at Easter you make some cinnamon scrolly kind of things.
They're pretty delicious.
They are. They're actually really good. I don't think they were worth the price of a Thermomix, but they're really good. We have a faith background, and so we have a faith-related tradition where every Easter you write a letter to our children about your feelings about faith. So
a few years ago, I realised that in spite of the fact that obviously with that faith background we have daily conversations with our children about our beliefs, that I wasn't necessarily intentional and very specific about how it made me feel. And a handful of years ago, I realised that there was so much chocolate. There was just so much chocolate. With grandparents giving them chocolate and us giving them chocolate, there was just so much chocolate.
We need to talk about the chocolate traditions in a sec too, by the way.
And so I realised that I kind of wanted to change the emphasis of our Easter celebration. And so I determined 2 things, and 2 traditions have come out of it as a result. Firstly, I wanted to explain to each of our children in words that were understandable to them how I felt about Easter and what it meant to me. And so the Easter letter was born, and that's given me an opportunity to write 6 different letters at different levels of understanding and explanation of what Easter actually means to me.
And you've been doing this every Easter for several years now, and 6 letters takes some time.
It does.
Have you got them all done for this year yet?
I haven't started.
You've got a lot to do over the next few days. Wow. But what's the other tradition that's been born?
It's not that I don't want to give them chocolate, but I don't want
to minimise the focus on chocolate.
The Easter stocking, or it's an Easter bag. It's not a stocking. It's not in the shape of a stocking, but a little Easter bag came. And so the letter goes inside the bag, and then they have a very, very small bag of Easter treats. It's about 10 little mini eggs in it, and that's all they get from us for Easter. So I fill it with things that are bunny related or egg related or chicken related.
It's like an Easter bag.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it might be some new pajamas, it might be some bunny slippers, but it also might just be a little book that has a bunny on it with "Some Bunny Loves You" or
"Some Bunny Loves You." I think that's cute. A couple of other Easter traditions. We've got to talk about the chocolate because it's become Easter for so many families, and it's also become the bane of Easter for so many families.
I asked our team actually what they do around Easter eggs, and Elizabeth said that one of the things that they've always done is an Easter egg hunt, which I think most families
that's a great tradition. So much
have
fun
to do. You can't get away from the Easter egg hunt.
I really like it when the kids get all the eggs that they've found on the hunt and they pull them and then they divide them evenly instead of trying to steal them off everyone. That makes my heart sing. Doesn't happen every year, but we try to encourage that. What did Elizabeth say with her family?
Well, she said in the early days they were, super organised and awesome, and they would actually hide the eggs. They would make a really big effort to make this really tricky for them. Over the years, they've become a little bit more slack. Right. And so now I think they just stand on the veranda and they kind of just scatter the eggs on the grass.
Scrambles.
Just throw the eggs. And the funny thing is, the kids are going to enjoy it no matter what, right?
Yeah.
They're just collecting chocolate. But one of the memories that I have for our kids is actually something that your mum has done. And she just loves
My mum loves giving. She's just generous.
And the Easter egg hunt at your mum's house is not a tricky one at all. You can, as soon as you wake up, the Easter bunny's been, because you can see all of those beautiful sparkling eggs all scattered over the carpet.
Everywhere.
They're just everywhere. But what else is there is half-eaten carrots.
That's right.
She gets the new carrots with the
little
the green
baby carrots with the green stems or whatever. All the greeny stuff coming out of the top. What do you call that? Whatever it is.
We happened to be there on Saturday night and we hadn't gone to bed yet, and we watched your mum and she nibbled all the ends of these carrots before she scattered them along the floor, because the Easter bunny was eating the whole time. He was scattering eggs around the house, and then there's little footprints that she's put out, and
little bunny footprints.
The next morning the kids get up and it's just so exciting because the bunny's left
magical
all these eggs for them to enjoy.
So that's pretty much all of them. You've got one more that you want to share.
We do a cousin craft day.
Oh, yes we do.
So my sisters and I are all pretty crafty, and so we pull together our ideas and we bring the cousins together, and even the boys get involved in this, and it's lots of fun. So last year we made these gorgeous little carrots out of cardboard, and we sewed up the seams, and then they filled them with Easter eggs, and they had little green
tufts of greenery.
Yeah,
we still can't work out what that's called.
They looked so cute, and then they could go and drop them off at their friends' places. It was so much fun.
Well, we hope that those ideas are helpful for you to make your Easter more meaningful, more traditional, or to create new traditions for yourself. We'd also love to hear about your Easter traditions. Maybe you do something that we have no idea could be a really great idea. If you do, send us an email. Let us know. Podcasts, that's podcasts with an S, at happyfamilies.com.au. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Roulon from Bridge Media. Our executive producer is Craig Bruce. And we just love getting your feedback so that other people can find out about the podcast and make their families happier. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a 5-star rating and review so that everyone else gets to find out the stuff that you're finding out. If you'd like more information, by the way, about making your family happier, we've got books, we've got resources, we've got a Happy Families membership and a whole lot more. You can get it all at happyfamilies.com.au.